talking about Matt Taibbi on being banished uh, from MSNBC and maybe like corporate, like cable news, um, after Russiagate because he didn't hop on board with that. And it's a casual conversation, so let's listen.
All right, so I've written extensively about this. I am a confessed recovering MSNBC junkie. So I was watching it back when you were allowed on there. Long before the Twitter files, you were banished from the hallowed halls of respectable media punditry. You stopped appearing in those outlets. Now, was there a specific incident, or was it just a general gradual parting of the ways of your politics?
Well, it's funny. When the Russia story kind of blew up, the few of us in the journalism community who were skeptics, we started to become kind of tight because there, among other things, because there were so few of us, and we kind of put our heads together and tried to figure out which was the last time any of us was invited on a major network. And I think I was the last one. It turned out to be the first week of January in 2017. I was on with Chris Hayes and Malcolm Nance, of all people.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't really say anything too controversial, except this is obviously a big deal. It's like the Super Bowl of intelligence controversies, and we don't have a whole lot of information yet to go on, and who knows, right? I mean, you're not really supposed to have that take on TV, but that was my take: is we don't have anything to go on. And I wasn't invited on after that. Then I had about a year later, I had a scandal. So it could have been connected to that, like my little Me Too thing. But there was a good year before that when I was kind of conspicuously not on TV, and I'm pretty sure that was connected to the Russia thing.
Yeah, there was a palpable shift, which you've written a lot about, after Trump was elected, where just any dissenting voice was just not acceptable. And you wrote from very early on that as a reporter, you didn't really think that the reporting on Russiagate was justified by the information that was available.
Yeah, I didn't have strong feelings about it. I mean, I had lived there, so people were always calling me about it. But when I did look at it, I thought, wow, there's an awful lot of anonymous sources here. And when the anonymous sources are pointing us in a direction, it's at something else that's unconfirmable. And, that there's always danger signs when you can't recreate the work in the lab, right? As a reporter. So that just made me nervous from the beginning. There was this amazing story I remember really early that was widely reported that the outgoing, as Obama was leaving office, intelligence officials told other intelligence agencies like the Mossad not to share intelligence with the United States because there were leverages of compromise on the incoming administration. I thought, that's an incredible story, right? Whatever is going on with Russiagate, that's a real story. Somebody had to call up a reporter and tell them that, and that's extraordinary. But what are they basing that on? And I think a lot of reporters actually just got confused by the hugeness of that one real phenomenon. I mean, somebody was really telling the Mossad not to share information, but based on what? It was like the Russian nesting doll. You never got to what was actually in the middle of it, and that was a problem. Just to interject quickly, I was also in the year before Trump got elected. I was on TV a lot that year because I had been, a lot of the stuff that I'd written about Trump was popular with the MSNBC crowd.
Right. Sure.
I had a lot of colorful things to say about him, but if you go back and look, one of the things that I was saying was he's going to do well, and Hillary Clinton is the ideal candidate for him to be running against But you know, in the way things are in the media, people read what they want to read. It's kind of like a Rorschach test. And so after the election,
so that's it's. I mean, in hindsight's 2020, and you know, considering the Twitter files and some of the reporting that has come out about Russiagate in particular, we can say that it wasn't like the people who kind of banished him was good fake actors. It wasn't like they really believed that, and they shunned him because he was an outsider, because he didn't believe that. They knew it wasn't real, but they still pushed it in because he wasn't willing to go along with it. He was ousted. He was banished. That's very telling when you're thinking about stuff about Trump, when you're thinking about all these things that we're hearing consistently. January 6th is another one. It's especially with the Twitter files and just uncovering some of the government agencies, government elected officials with their hand in on this sort of censorship, with the Hunter Biden, with the Russiagate and all this stuff, and then with COVID and vaccinations. All right, so I said too much. So let's listen a little more. We won't listen to the whole thing. We'll listen to maybe another 2 or 3 minutes of it.
Suddenly that didn't look so good, I guess.
Yeah, and then, you know, obviously you followed the Russiagate saga, you know, all the way through the end, and, you know, has it ended really? But you're right about, you know, in that sort of chapter on Hate Inc. about how Rachel Maddow was going to take the fall for this, and how a lot of, you know, respectable media was willing to throw her under the bus for the sins that they were all pretty much complicit in committing. I just have to tell you this because I think it's funny, because you wrote about March 22nd, 2019, which was yesterday. That was the day my twin boys were born. They had their fourth birthday yesterday. But here's how this happened. So my kids are born. My twins are born. It's like one of the most profound days of my life, right? And then when my in-laws come to the hospital to see them, they're hours old. My mother-in-law gets a beep on her phone saying the Mueller report was turned in, and they say there's going to be no new charges. And I'm like, oh man, no new charges. I so want to go on Twitter and troll the libs now, but I can't. Like, I just had my children. Like, this is the most sacred day of my life, and I'm thinking, I can't do it.